Good evening. I'm Celeste Grenio, and thank you so much for joining me once again on another installment of Breakthrough News. Today is Friday, March the 27th, 2018. So I know that there's been a significant gap since I last reported, and the last time I did, I was at Arches National Park in Moab, Utah. If any of you have never been there, I highly recommend you go and go as soon as possible. It was one of the most amazing, sublime places I have ever been. And I've been to some really cool places. I didn't realize how incredible the American West is and how much one can learn from it. I felt comfortable. I felt safe. It was great to be in just open, clean air. You have to remember, I live in Southern California. We experience all kinds of weather. We even experienced snow. It was an adventure driving through Vail, Colorado. In fact, I ended up using more winter clothing than I did, spring and summer clothing. So it was really interesting, and it was fun to see snow. It's so seldom for me, so I got a great kick out of it, and it was beautiful. From there, we went on to Colorado, and we went on to Wyoming, and then the drive back was great as well. I just enjoyed it. It was my third road trip, and I hope it's not my last. In fact, I'm planning another trip by train, and maybe I'll do a show on train. You never know. Who knows what I'll do next? I'm always off somewhere. But I've always appreciated going overseas, and I've always said, if I don't use my passport, then it's not a real vacation. But this was a real vacation. I found a lot of peace. I found a lot of serenity. I did a lot of praying, and I did a lot of thinking, and it was good for me. It was good for me to just get out of here and spend time with my godbrother, who's I've known nearly my entire life. And along the way, we also saw a couple of my other friends, so that was great. But it was wonderful experiencing new things. And, on top of the snow, I got to see a lot of the Colorado River, and I got to see deer, and I got to see bison, and I ate bison. I had a bison burger. I got to see the Great Continental Divide. It was just amazing. All of these incredible things, and they're here. They're here in the United States. So I just encourage everybody just to get out there and explore. And I love doing so. I don't mind going new places. I don't mind talking to strangers and meeting people, but this just was an adventure of its own. And the national parks are incredible. They don't get the credit that they deserve. I just recommend everybody going and taking your children. There's just incredible things to see. We went to Zion National Park, and like I said, Arches National Park. And if we had more time, we would have gone up to Yellowstone. So I think that's next on my list. But it was great. It was great. But you know what? It's also great to be home. There's so much angst that I feel towards California. This state, it's hard living. It's not easy for everybody, and it's not for the faint of heart. And I can go on and on of all the things I've experienced living here. But it's good sometimes to get away, and when you come home, you appreciate it. And I know I did, and I always do. Every time I come home from leaving California and I come back, I'm like, oh, I love you so much, California. No, I will never move. And then the governor does something, or there's a ridiculous bill being passed, or there's a new sales tax, and then I'm just angry all over again. So I'm already at that point. When I came back, I had a lot to do, and then I started feeling sick, which doesn't surprise me considering all the varying temperatures that I was exposed to in the weather. So I'm not surprised. So I needed a little time to rest when I got back. And so that's why there's been a gap between now and then. But I thank you all for tuning in. And it's great to be back. And it's good to be home, like I said. So on top of that, a lot has gone on since. But the most important story, I think, is the possible reunification of the Korean Peninsula. And last night, watching the North and South Korean leaders meet at the DMZ and shake hands, and everybody just looked happy. There was all kinds of smiles, and I knew I was watching something historic. And I even told my dad, we're watching history right now, right here. This is historic. It made me think about, as a kid, watching the footage from the Berlin Wall and people crossing over, and it brought back those memories and the happiness that I felt as a child. I didn't know fully what was going on, but it was wonderful to see people happy. And with all the fear that we've experienced because of this issue and all the uncertainty, it's wonderful to see President Trump to say, you know what, I'm tired of this. I've had it, I have to deal with this situation. It's gone on long enough. Well, now I'm going to end it. And I love to see leaders just go for it and take the lead. And, sometimes I get bothered that America is the world's policeman. But when things like this happen, I just think that's why we are, Now, to me, that doesn't excuse the hundreds of bases around the world. But when we do take the lead in situations like these, there's a certain pride that I feel, and it's happiness that I feel, and I'm happy for the Korean people. I look forward to seeing the families being reunited once again. There's families that were separated, decades ago, and they've never seen each other again, and I look forward to seeing those. I'm sure there's immense relief in South Korea. I'm sure there's immense relief in Japan, in Guam, even China and Hawaii, and even being on the west coast of the United States, I'm relieved too. So it's a wonderful day. And with Trump taking his victory lap, he even acknowledged the help of the Chinese, and he's right. He said that if he didn't have their help and their assistance with this, it would have taken a lot longer and it would have been more difficult. And he's right. I agree. So it's awesome that he acknowledged their assistance in this matter as well. So I'm hopeful. I know it sounds naive, but seeing those images that I saw last night, and if you guys didn't watch the footage, I highly recommend that you do so. It's just touching, and it's wonderful to see fear go away and to see that the words of war go away and dissolve. It's definitely an interesting time, and we're very fortunate and blessed to experience it. So I wonder what would have happened if Hillary had won. Probably war. Definitely. And I know she would have blamed Obama for not taking care of it. And then Obama would have blamed Bush because he blamed Bush for everything. Remember, he used to say, well, the previous administration, ... So he definitely would have just blamed Bush, and Bush would have blamed Clinton. And I'm sure today Bill Clinton's blaming Jimmy Carter and Bill Richardson. So it's just nice when you think about all the presidents that have dealt with this, and Trump just saying, it's going to get done. And it's wonderful. He deserves credit. Whatever they want to give to him for this, I'm all for it. Another thing that happened that was very interesting this week is Kanye West sending one tweet saying, I like the way Candace Owens thinks. And I saw this tweet. It showed up in my timeline. And I thought, oh my God. Okay, here it comes. And it did. It didn't take long for the left to just completely lose their mind. And I think they are thinking, how dare Kanye West think for himself? He may encourage others to do so. And I noticed that all these tweets that he put out have had thousands of retweets and have had hundreds of thousands of likes. And it's almost shocking to see him wear a Make America Great Again hat. It is for me. He tweeted that today, and I'm just like, is this real? It's stunning, but it's good. He said that people should be free thinkers. And, I told my brother, I think Kanye West got red-pilled over last weekend. But I love that. I love anybody that says, think for yourself and to love other people. And he's right. He's completely correct in that. And I'm tired of people telling people, you must think this. No, you can't think that. No, how dare you? That's racist. Whenever you're losing and someone is losing an argument with you, they're losing when they call you a racist. So if you've been called racist, and I have, and I'm an American Indian Hispanic woman, and I'm called racist, which when someone calls me that, I just start laughing and I walk away. Because it's not even clever. And then at that point, I'm just throwing my pearls at swine. That's how I see it. So being a woman of color and not a liberal, I've experienced some of that vitriol, and I've been called terrible things. And But you know what? I don't care. I think for myself. I look at things and I look at both sides and I come to my own conclusion. I think what's best. I always think too, who's benefiting from a certain crisis? You know, who's making money off of this? I think of all, there's many, many factors whenever there's an issue going on. But I encourage people, think for yourself. What do you think? And if you disagree with me, you know, that's okay. If you're a Democrat, that's okay. If you're a Republican or a Libertarian or a Green Party member, good for you. You know, I think we're coming to a point in human history where sooner or later, we're going to be called to account of our beliefs and who we are. And this is the perfect time for someone out there to decide who they are and why they think the way they do. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with just, you know, standing back and going, why am I this? Why do I feel this way? I know I do it all the time. I check myself all the time. And it's wonderful to just get out of the left-right paradigm. It's wonderful to free yourself from the Republican-Democrat paradigm. Do it. I encourage you to do so, you know, because there's more than that. There are bigger issues than that. Right now, you know, the war is for your mind, you know, and if you don't know who you are, you're going to get lost in the shuffle. And you're going to be a robot like everybody else. And I think Kanye was in the middle of that. And you know what? Another thing that he did is that he exposed the nastiness of the left. He exposed, you know, people being angry at him just because he wants to think differently. The left is tolerant as long as you agree with them. And he showed that too. You know, so I think it's great. I think it's great. Good for him. And I hope many others come along with him and start going, why do I feel this way? Why do I believe this way? There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing at all. And you know, if you disagree with me, that's great. I just don't like when the disagreements turn personal. And when people call for like boycotts because you laughed at them by not going to university, you know, like things like that. And what's worse is seeing like people having to backtrack and going, I apologize, blah, 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 blah. Even someone like Laura Ingraham, you know, who's highly educated, clerked at the Supreme Court, and her cowing down to a teenager, it made me lose respect for her. You know, I can't believe that we're letting teenagers and even people that are millennial dictate who we are and what we believe. I refuse to fall for that. So, you know, believe what you believe and apologize for nothing. And that's how I see things in this world. So that made an interesting week, I thought. On top of which, and you know, speaking of it being exposed, it was announced today that there was no Russian collusion with the Trump campaign. And it's time for this to end. You know, as soon as the Hillary supporters and Democrats and liberals can get out of their denial that Hillary lost, the sooner this country can move on and go forward. And you know, Trump doing so much despite all the daggers coming at him, I think it's sensational what he's done. So can you imagine what he can do when he has both sides wanting to work? If there's both sides saying, you know what, this president's popular. He's more popular than the polls show. And if we come together and we can do something, can you imagine what can get done? So I'm hoping that this is the beginning of the end of all the liberals' denial and nonsense and hate. As soon as they can see the light and grow up, I think we can do so much more. So thank you so much for tuning in today. There's a lot coming up next week that I can't wait to discuss, and I will see you guys soon. Any questions or comments, please leave below. If you like, click like. If you want to share, by all means do so, and I will see you guys soon. Take care and have a great weekend. All right, bye-bye.